Previously on Kevin Kenzen Gaming.
Now, unlike the FPS Plus, this is not going to feature any kind of... Oh, shit, is this wireless? Oh, shit. This is a wireless controller. It's a Bluetooth. A couple weeks back, Hori released a new PS4 controller currently exclusive to Europe called the Onyx. And what's unique about this controller is that it is the first officially licensed controller for the PlayStation 4 that is wireless instead of wired. And what's really unique about this too is the fact that usually when a third party makes a controller, the goal is either that it's wired and cheaper but more affordable for people, or you go the opposite direction and it's a pro controller where it's more expensive and it has all kinds of extra bells and whistles. The Onyx, on the other hand, has a very simple pitch, which is it is an alternative choice to the DualShock 4 that is wireless, which is simply designed for people who like the Xbox One controller better. Does it accomplish this goal? Let's get into the specifics. First, let's start with the good for this controller. To begin with, I think both the buttons and sticks on this thing are solid. The buttons kind of have what I think is now kind of the standard for a lot of Hori controllers, where compared to official PS4 or Xbox One controllers, the travel distance on them is just a little bit farther and they're a bit stiffer. It's not necessarily better than the official controllers, nor is it worse. It's just a different style that works. As for the sticks, I think they are a little stiffer than the official controllers, which I do not like a little bit, but it still works really well, and I really like the concave shape design they have going for them. I think it gives you a good grip. I kind of wish there was a slightly rougher material to make sure you could really stick on them, but it's good enough to get the job done. Now, as for what's just okay on the controller, the D-pad is all right. It's not a bad one, but it's just not as good as what you're gonna see on the DualShock 4 or an Xbox One controller for that matter. And the front shoulder buttons are all right. They feel like they have a little extra travel distance, but in a bad way compared to the regular buttons. They don't have great feedback. They'll work, it just doesn't feel quite as snappy as you would get on a normal controller. Now, on the other hand, this controller does have some drawbacks, and sadly, while there's only a few drawbacks, they're all really bad. Biggest thing that I noticed immediately as soon as I even just put my hands on the controller is the grip design. See, it is definitely inspired by the Xbox One controller. I mean, the general shaping and everything, the button placement is all like an Xbox One controller. And I do like the button placement itself, but the big thing that's a problem is the hand grips. See, while it may at first glance look pretty much the same, it's actually much narrower on the back compared to an Xbox One controller. So when you hold the controller with an Xbox One, normally you just kind of rest your hands and it feels very natural. With the Onyx, on the other hand, I feel like I'm gripping a lot tighter just to have a proper grip on it, which causes a lot more stress in my hands while I'm playing and is just a much more uncomfortable experience. The second thing I noticed, and is honestly the biggest problem this controller has, is the triggers. I absolutely hate these triggers. They have this kind of resistance to them that doesn't really feel proper at all. Like, it gives a lot of resistance up front and then it loosens up at the end, and it just doesn't feel, well, really just natural at all. Compared to either controller design, the PS4 or the Xbox, it just doesn't feel right, which is really a shame because I feel like the genre that benefits the most from the Xbox One layout is FPS games, and that's a situation where you're gonna be using the triggers a lot. And so having these kind of awkward ones that just don't even give you the proper feedback or feel like you're not pressing them properly is just not a good sign. Another button that feels really awkward on this thing, and honestly this is more of a minor one because it comes up so rarely for most games, but the touchpad button has the same kind of issues where it doesn't really feel like you're pressing a button properly. It just kind of feels like there's this platform here with some springs underneath, and you're not getting a good feedback as though you're actually pressing the button. It just kind of feels like the thing depresses and pushes back right away. It just doesn't feel like the right kind of activation. And lastly, something that on the PS4 at least can maybe be forgivable is the fact that, like most third-party controllers on the PS4, this is still lacking any kind of headphone jack. So if you're using some of the official Sony headsets for the PS4, you don't have to worry about that because you can just use the wireless USB dongle. But if you want to use one of your own headsets or anything that uses just a traditional aux cable, you're not going to be able to do that with this controller, which is a major loss. So is the Onyx worth grabbing over an official DualShock 4 controller? Maybe. Look, I know I'm being really harsh on certain aspects of it, like the triggers and the grip, but those are real problems in my opinion. However, if you are the kind of person who really dislikes the symmetrical stick layout of the DualShock 4 and instead you want something close to the Xbox One, this can be worth grabbing. Just realize that if you do, you are going to be losing certain aspects of quality, like how those triggers feel, like the grip. It's just going to be a little worse in some respects. Now, of course, the other question here is how much does it cost compared to a DualShock 4? Because if it's cheaper, you might find it to be more worth grabbing grabbing over a new DualShock 4. Now, like I said earlier, this is currently only in Europe, and if you're looking at the UK prices for it in pounds, the Onyx is a little cheaper than a DualShock 4. But for those of us that have to import it to the US, the price basically comes out to a little over $60. So it's just as expensive, if not a little more, than grabbing a DualShock 4, which for a lot of you might just be the thing that breaks your decision on whether or not to grab it.